Good evening and welcome to this March meeting of Sequoia Genealogical Society. Lorraine Clark, our society president, is home doing battle with the after effects of flu. She's decided not to share it with us, so she's keeping it to herself. She's doing well, but she says at this point she can barely speak out loud. And being able to speak out loud tonight is important because our sound system is dead in this room. So it's on the list to be fixed, and we hope that it will be by next month. Tonight would have been, or was supposed to be, our society board meeting, first one for 2024, but with Lorraine unable to attend, and another board member on a multi-week vacation in Hawaii. Anyone feeling sorry for him? We didn't have a quorum, so I have no business to inform you about. I was informed though this afternoon that in the room, the genealogy room, we now have available the Encyclopedia of American Quaker Genealogy. It's 6 volumes in size, so if you have Quakers in your family tree or in your genealogical family tree, that is, you might find some information in there. So that is available to you in the genealogy room. We have an after meeting treat tonight provided by Rochelle Miguel. And by the way, on the table right here, we have a sign-up sheet for anyone who would like to show off their cooking skills and provide a snack for a future meeting. There is an opportunity here to check off some. I will let you know that you did sign up for it, so just in case you sign up and think that you will not remember it next month or the month after that or the month after that, you're welcome to sign up for anything up until the November meeting. So before I introduce our guest speaker tonight, a quick mention about next month. Coming up on April the 4th, we will have a Zoom presentation from Jolene Atchison from her home in Washington State. Jolene's program will be an introduction to Percy. If you're not familiar with that, it stands, Percy is an acronym for the Periodical Source Index. If you are a serious genealogy researcher, this will be of interest to you, especially if you're unaware of what it is. It apparently is an organization somewhere in the Midwest of periodicals that you can research online for genealogy. So that takes us to tonight. Our speaker, though she may be better described as an actress, is Dallas Pattee. Dallas is known in these parts for her portrayal of famous and somewhat infamous individuals who have a connection here to our area. Back in 2016, Dallas earned the American Women in History Award presented by the Altamira chapter, the Daughters of the American Revolution. And in 2018, the Sequoia chapter of the DAR awarded her their Historic Preservation and Recognition Award. What I have here is that Dallas recently became, or soon will become, an author. Is that?
I have a manuscript in the works.
Oh,
I've got 20 chapters.
She has a manuscript in the works. So, and if you're a self-starter like I am, there's a saying: once begun is half done. So.
Yeah. Well, we're almost done.
She's working on a book, and she might tell us more about that tonight. So tonight, she brings us a program on mourning, not the early morning, but the morning of passing of death. So please join me in welcoming Dallas Pattee.
Yeah, I'll start out by saying I am wearing my genuine artificial widow's weeds. And they're genuine in the fact that the jewelry I have on tonight is all mourning jewelry. This bracelet is marked December 16, 1878. And this ring, it's jet, and I don't know how old it is, but it's old. And then this brooch, it's got hair work in it from the deceased. And the earrings are jet. So that's what they wore when the widows were in mourning. And mourning usually lasted about 2 years. And they had all this strict etiquette, what they could do, what they couldn't do. And then they would go into half mourning where they'd start introducing pastel colors rather than just go right to red and orange and pink and all these, they were soft, muted colors. And then they would get rid of that completely and go back to normal wear. But some widows, especially those that were up there in age, they knew they weren't going to marry again or anything, and they just stayed in black all the rest of their days. And so I've got some things for show and tell. I'm going to pick up an item and tell you what it is, and when I'm done, after the program, you guys are welcome to come up here and take a closer look at anything you want to see. And I'll gladly share anything I've got and try to answer any questions you might have. So what do I want to start with? Let's start with the deceased and post-mortem photography. Lots of times, people took pictures of their loved ones after they were gone, and in the 1800s especially, sometimes that was their first and only picture of that individual, whether it was a child or a grandparent or a parent. And so this is what they did. They took the pictures. And these also have, you'll see all the decorations for the funeral. And it's really neat that they can get all this stuff into the pictures. And you learn a lot by looking at what's in the pictures. And I've got more. I got this postmortem picture, not too long ago. And it's very unique. I've never seen a loved one of the deceased sitting by the casket before. And that's what this man is doing. And let's see what else. Oh, you'll love this one. This guy's an outlaw. Jim McKinney, and he had a shootout in Porterville, and then he went to Bakersfield, and it was on the lam. Well, some lawmen caught up to him, and 2 of them lost their lives. Well, he lost his life too. And this is the post-mortem picture showing he's dead. We don't have to worry about him anymore. He's gone. And he's buried in the Porterville Cemetery, and he doesn't have a grave marker. So, but he's on the outskirts of his family's plot. And next to him is a lovely cabinet card of a widow in her widow's weeds. And you can see it's very similar to what I'm wearing, black, and she's got the black train on her hat and everything. And so this shows us what they look like. We can read about them in the, what do I want to call them, the etiquette books, but you don't get to see the pictures. So anyway, that's what that is. Get that one. They were also into getting pictures of the funeral flowers. And some of these, I gotta get my glasses, here they are. Forgot where I put them. Bear with me. Blind as a bat without them. Yeah, this one, I'm sure he was a veteran because we've got the American flag here, we've got the American flag here, we have a floral arrangement marked like a flag. So I'm sure he had to be a veteran. What war, I do not know. Probably the Civil War. I wouldn't be surprised. And then here's some more funeral flowers. And it says Harry, and then it looks like a HH, and the other one says rest, and then down here it says Papa. So we know this was a gentleman. His name was Harry, and he was somebody's Papa. And you could get these pictures any size you want. The larger they were, the more expensive they were going to be. And I got this really nice one here. Look at the size of this one. And it hung in their parlor for the family to see. And in this picture, let me get it around here, they have sheaves of wheat. And wheat was for showing the harvest of someone who lived a long, full life. And we see wheat often for some of these older people. And they have a picture of the deceased here. He's got a white beard and white hair. So he lived to a ripe old age, and I think that's really wonderful. He was also a mason, because you can read, they've got the G, and you've got the compass, and forgot the other thing. I should have looked it up. Anyway, yes, we knew he was a Mason. We know he lived a long, full life. And apparently, he came from money, or his family had money, because look at the size of this picture. And earlier, when I was telling you that, they would often have pictures of their loved one. And they could either come to the house. There was an advertisement I saw in the old Visalia Weekly Delta, and it was for Bird's Photographic Gallery. And they said, we will take pictures of your deceased. You can bring them to the studio, and we'll do it there, or we charge extra to come to your home, but we will do that for you. So I thought that was very interesting, and so we have that going on. Then they were into memorial pictures too. These two children are dead, and we are assuming that they're dead because we've got the cameos, and they're like in heaven here. And this is the family homestead below it, and that would hang on the wall too. So I just got that about a year ago. Never seen one like this before, but I thought it was really neat.
Kind of a reasonably modern looking house. I mean, it isn't built up what's concerned about flood.
Right.
And it has a garage,
Outbuildings, yes.
This,
And the barn, big red barn. I think this is turn of the century. I don't think it's 1800s, but it's still old. Okay, let me get some other things up here. Okay. When children died, they had the white memorial cards. This was a little girl. And where'd I put my glasses? Back on my belt. Can't see what I'm on. Okay, so anyway, these memorial cards, they were printed up and sent to friends and relatives. And this is Anna G. Minning. She died November 15, 1899. She was 8 years old, 3 months, and 19 days. And it's got flowers, and it says, in loving memory of her. And then Gone But Not Forgotten. And then they have a nice little poem. Most of these did have poems. And this one says, sleep on in thy beauty, thou sweet angel child, by sorrow unblighted, by sin undefiled. Like the dove to the ark, thou hast flown to thy rest, from the wild sea of strife to the home of the blessed. And when the children died, they were buried in white. They were buried in white coffins. They had white flowers. And if you were lucky enough to have a town that had a white hearse, they were carried to the cemetery in a white hearse drawn by white horses. And Visalia had a white hearse. So I think that was really neat. But most people ended up with the black hearse and the black horses and the black plumes on the horses. And next to her, this is also like a memorial photograph. It doesn't give dates and everything. But here he is. This is an image of the deceased. And he's they do it in a scroll type thing with flowers around it. The scroll standing for, the scroll of life. And so that's what that is. And over here we have more images of people, and they're on the scroll, even this little child. And I've got a lot more of those too. Let me find it. Yeah. Here's two women. There's this woman, and she's up, on a scroll, and she's got the black background. Here's another woman. I like this guy because I like all the stuff around him, and I'm sure all of it is symbolic. I just don't know what it is. I did find one symbol that I do recognize. There's a moth there, and the moth, it's like the butterfly. You go through the 3 stages of life, and the final is the resurrection. And some people will go on and say, well, it's not the resurrection, it's reincarnation. So it all depends on what your belief system is. But he's also got spiders in here. He's got 2 birds in here. And lots of flowers, and I have no idea what they mean, but maybe he was just a nature lover, who knows? But I think it's a neat photograph. And next to him, again, is another widow who's in full mourning. And you can see all of her black clothing, head to toe. And here's another guy who's dead, and he's on the scroll again, and there are some flowers around him. And when these images were sent to friends or family, they were put in a black bordered envelope indicating it was mourning. And I've got one I'll show you in a minute. Here's some more images on scrolls. I really like this little girl, the way she was posed in life. I think it's really a great picture. And then of course you'll see flowers around her, and the same with this man here. And then over here on this side, you know, this is also a memorial picture because it's black bordered. And the Victorians were really into putting black borders around everything. I had an old fan dating back to the 1860s, and it was black, the whole thing, the handle, the fan itself, and then it had a black ribbon that you could, hold it around your wrist, but the black ribbon even had a different colored black border around the ribbon. So they're really into the black borders. And this one, we've got, and it states on here, the memorial photo of Bishop McMahon, Diocese of Hartford. And so they printed up memorial photographs of him and probably handed them out to his parish.
You never know that was a clergy person.
Yes. And it's very faded, but still, you can see it and you know what it is. And that was the first photograph I came across that said, memorial photo of somebody. So I thought that was pretty good. And I've got more of the memorial cards. If it was in black, then usually that's an adult. And like I said earlier, if it's a white card, that's for a child. But sometimes I've run across some that it was just the opposite. Someone who's actually an adult had a white card. And I've seen a child with a black card, so you don't know. There's always an exception to every rule, it seems like. And so we have that. And let's see. This is Isaac Ellis. And he was born July 15, 1803. He died December 21st, 1877. He was at age 74 years, 5 months, and 6 days. One by one, earth's ties are broken as we see our love decay, and the hope so fondly cherished, brightened but to pass away. One by one, our hopes grow brighter as we near the shining shore, for we know across the river, wait the loved ones gone before. And so, they all have little poems of one kind or another, and different. They have urns and angels and all kinds of various things on them. And I have another on the back side of this, some little pictures, more widows. Only these are close-ups of them, but you can tell again by what she's wearing that this is a widow. And one of them, this one, she has a hairwork brooch at her throat. And so it would be, the hair of her deceased loved one. Okay, what else can I find? Oh, there's more. Again, these are the children's cards. So this one is an adult, but it's white. And these are white with the white on. And here is the black bordered envelope I was telling you about. And these cards would slip into that, and they would go in the mail that way, so the recipient knew someone had died. So it wouldn't be fun getting a black bordered envelope in your mail. So that's what that is, and I've got some more mourning jewelry in here. And this is jet, and this is the white seed pearls here. They're symbolic of tears. And in this one, it has hair work in it again. And this one has hair work in it as well. So they were really into hair and mourning big time. These are from England actually, and they open up like so, but I wanted you to see the front cover, but also see what was on the inside of it. But yeah, from England. I used to have a lot of them. I don't have them anymore, but I got these. And this woman, Margaret Annie H. Mountain, beloved daughter of Frank and Margaret Mountain, who died at Rowlands Gill, June 3rd, 1901, aged 22 years, was interred at Lancaster on June 5th. So at least they tell you where they're buried too, and that, as genealogists, you guys would really, find this very, very informative and helpful. Let's see, there was something I was going to tell you, but it slipped my mind. Shame on me. Let's see. Oh, it'll come to me eventually. Oh, the hair work that I was telling you about. Okay, that's what they did in the old days. Well, now we've got something better. We can have just a little thimbleful of our loved ones' cremains sent to a company, and they will turn it into a diamond. Oh yeah, life gem. And I think that's a whole lot better than hair. So I think that's really neat, the difference where we've come in the last 100 or so years. Okay, I've got more, oh here, here's more hair work. This is an image of the deceased. They used her hair, they made this beautiful, I don't know if that's supposed to be a flower or a four-leaf clover, I can't tell. There's some lace here that she may have made that herself. It may have come from a piece of her clothing, but it's a nice tribute to her. And the frame is beautiful. Let's go over here. Okay, this is a picture of Glenn Bowers when he was alive and when he was placed in the coffin. And you don't ordinarily get a picture of someone when they were living and then get a picture of them when they are deceased and in their coffins. And then under that, these are coffin plates. And they were usually placed about here on the inside lid of the coffin. And then people, the family would take them as a souvenir. They held on to everything regarding death, I swear. But I don't know, maybe it's not so bad. But I've seen a lot of pictures of, you know, deceased people and children especially. And I've got a picture where I put it, it's over here. So when I saw this print last year on my birthday in an antique store, I go, this child is dead. I can just tell by looking at the eyes, they're sunken and there's the dark shadows under them. And the dealer who had this said sleeping child, and then he also put or post-mortem. He wasn't sure either. So I think post-mortem. I'm just looking at the eyes. There's probably some sort of symbolic reason why one shoe's on and one off. I don't know what that might be. And the baby, the child, seems to be laid out on the floor, and the dog's right there. I think he's standing guard. He's not laying down in grief, but it feels like he's protecting the child, even in death. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. But it's interesting that they would, you know, they would make art like this of deceased children or other things. So I have some others too. So I know they do it, but it's a weird thing to collect, isn't it? Okay, hold on. And this one. This is a man, and he's holding his murdered child. And we know this because it says, boy murdered, you know, horror hits neighborhood. And then we have and these other pictures, these images, are the memories of this father being with his son growing up. And here we go. It says, conclusion. If the prosecutor has done his job properly, a guilty man will stand convicted of murder. What is the value of bringing a killer to justice? Clearly it is worth a great deal, although it is hard to measure in quantitative terms. It is about as difficult to measure as the value of a lonely father's memories of his murdered son. And I don't know if this was a true story that, you know, someone did. It's signed and it's numbered. And where did this part come from? I don't know. It may have really happened. And it's a Bay Area artist, Francis Woodcock. I don't know. But I just found it to be a very haunting picture, and so I bought it. I consider it another piece of mourning memorabilia. I'm going to take my hat off because it keeps falling off. This has been one of those days that never sat right on my head, so I'm going to take that off. These are funeral home cardboard fans. Because back in the day when we didn't have air conditioning, they were sitting there and they had to fan themselves to stay cool. There's another one. And on the back, it's Hadley and Lucy, Phone 90, Visalia, California. And this is also Hadley. And then I've got another coffin plate. This one says Mother. And then I have postcards also. are available that have death memorials to them. This is Kit Carson. There's a cameo picture of him, and that's the home in New Mexico. Yeah. And there's his gravesite with his markers. And so that becomes collectible mourning memorabilia too. There were different lodges. There was the Oddfellows Lodge and Masons and everything. Well, here's one for Tulare City. So this is local to you guys. And this is the Oddfellows. Okay, they wore these colorful badges when they marched in parades and attended events and everything. But when one of their brothers died, they turned the ribbon over to in memoriam. And they would wear that to the cemetery. They often took charge of the funeral. And they would march to the cemetery, and then they would wear these ribbons in memoriam for a whole month. And I thought it was really neat to be able to get some local ones. They're hard to find, they're rare. Here's another one from the Bonnie Bray, and that's in Exeter. And so I used the memorial side of it. And then this one, this is a memorial medal from the Visalia Grand Army of the Republic. Yeah, again, I think it's so neat. Visalia, it says right on there. And I think it was Terry Oman's book, Visalia Then and Now. And he has a picture of the GAR members. They're lined up at the cemetery or something. And in that photo, there's a man wearing a medal just like this. Maybe this is that medal. I don't know. So there's all kinds of things connected to death that you can find. And in positive ways, I think, most of them. And this came out of a cemetery. I didn't take it. I didn't do it. A lot of people do things like that, but I'm not one of them. But anyway, it stands by the grave, by the tombstone. And it says here, Veterans of Foreign War of the United States. So it's got a couple of nicks in it, probably from a lawnmower or something. So maybe the family replaced it, or maybe someone walked off with it. Anyway, it ended up in an antique store and I bought it. I've seen these in Oregon at cemeteries, and I've seen them at Hanford. Hanford actually has some of these. So that's what that is. And this is an etiquette book, 1878. And it has a whole chapter on funerals, 8 pages, this is very short, what they have. And also, this is a current memorial bookmark. It's got footprints on one side of the bookmarker, and then you learn about the person who died. It was June Ray, 47, of Altaloma, passed away May 1st, 2004. So I thought it'd be perfect for me to mark the book. Then at the end of that chapter, I have another bookmarker. And this is, it says to plant this cross in loving memory of our beloved Lena Allen. The Lord has called her home, and now heaven's gardens are more beautiful than ever. And what the seeds are, they're for forget-me-nots. And forget-me-nots were very popular in the Victorian mourning. And there's a saying that how they got the name forget-me-not is because this young man, he was trying to impress this young woman, and they're walking along the riverbank, and he leans over to get the forget-me-nots, get the flowers for her. And he's sucked into the river. He falls in, and he can't get out. And he throws the flowers and says, "Forget me not, forget me not." And so that's the saying of how the forget me not came to be. And then there's read a couple of things in here. Not many, but just let me find a couple. Okay, all manner of ostentation at funerals should be carefully avoided. Mourning is rejected by many persons of intelligence who think it is temptation to extravagance and regard it, moreover, as requiring too much thought and trouble when the mind is overwhelmed with real grief. The hired mutes and heavy trappings of woe, which are still in use in England, are entirely abandoned in this country. And there's one I wanted to see if I could find, and they tell you what to do. Invitations to a funeral, charge of affairs at a funeral, expense of a funeral, general rules of etiquette concerning houses of mourning, conveyance for a funeral, exhibiting the corpse, receiving guests at a funeral, proceeding to the cemetery, flowers at a funeral, other decorations upon the coffin, after the funeral, notification of death, An obligation to attend a funeral. What are the other headings? Seclusion of the bereaved family. No one of the immediate family of the deceased should leave the house between the time of the death and the funeral. A lady friend should make all necessary purchases and engage seamstresses, etc. And let's see. Okay, let's try and find it. Yeah, okay, I think this is it. The woman who wears the badge of widowhood for exactly 2 years to a day, and then puts it off suddenly for ordinary colors, and who possibly has already contracted an engagement for a second marriage during these 2 years of supposed mourning, confesses to a slavish hypocrisy in making an ostentatious show of a grief which has long since died a natural, and shall we not say desirable, death. There was another one I wanted to find, but I don't know where it is in here. But speaking of women remarrying while they're in mourning, I've got a picture from a friend. Here it is. And here you have a bride in mourning. They wore black, but then they would wear the white veil because this is their first time marriage. So she wasn't mourning a husband, she was mourning another family member. Like I said, the white veil shows her purity and innocence, and she's a virgin still, so she's got that purity there, but she wore black. And I had a letter, it was on mourning stationery, black bordered envelope, black bordered letter, and this woman is writing to her friend, and she says, well, I'm going to be getting married on Saturday, and I will be wearing black because my brother died. And she says, I know Will would want me to do this. And so there's proof too that they did this. They wore black when they were getting married, even if there had been a death in the family. So you can find so many things in pictures and letters if you can just run across them. Did I bring anything else for show and tell? Because I feel like I'm going too fast for you guys. I should have brought more stuff. Are any of you familiar with this book, Stories in Stone? It is a wonderful book. It tells you what the different symbols are in graveyards, what they stand for. There's a wealth of information in here, and I find it very informative and very helpful. And since you people probably spend some time researching in cemeteries, this might be a useful tool for you. That's why I brought it, so that you might want to take a look at it. Okay, I don't think I brought anything else, but I'm willing to take some questions. I don't know if I can answer them, but I'll sure give it a try. Yes?
The painting or the picture that you have on the floor there, is that actually a painting or was that camera photography?
I think it was camera photography, but I can't say for sure. Because it also looks like it could be a watercolor.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
So I don't know. Have a closer look. What do you think?
Oh,
It might have been a picture touched up.
I think you're right. Well, what was intriguing to me is they transposed
Yes.
it right into the
Right.
picture, which you don't. That's back then. That's modern technology.
Yeah, I know.
So
Is there anything on the back of it?
No, there wasn't.
yeah, that's great. I think that is an original photograph, but obviously they did something to get that to blend in.
Yeah, they colorized it, and they could do that even back in the 1800s, because I also had a photograph, and I always read on the back of them too, to see what the photographer has to say. And he was saying that, he says, if you have any pictures of the deceased, bring them in, and I can make them look alive, using India ink and this and that. And I had a photograph like that, because I bought it, and I thought, that's either an ugly baby, or that child's dead. And so I got out my reading glasses, got out a magnifying glass, the child was dead. They painted the eyes open.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I think I have seen.
Yeah.
I've seen that. That's kind of
So it's really crazy. So any other questions? Yes?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment. Over the stuff, all these things that you showed us are the ways that the manner of people who have some money, who have established in it isn't farm people.
Right.
So I was wondering, so we've settled how these people, what their borders were, but what about the rest of the population?
They improvised.
That they were trying to do?
Right, and even in that book of etiquette, it says you should not go into debt for a funeral. You should only pay what you can afford. And that's what, you know, a lot of people, like you said, they were dirt poor, and they couldn't do these things. And the people who had more money, okay, they got the bigger stuff. I have a wonderful memorial to McKinley, the president who was assassinated in 1901. And it's like one of these, you know, memorial cards that I showed you, but it's a huge picture like this. I've got it up framed on the wall, and I'm too old now to climb up on a chair and take it down to bring it in for show and tell. But it's just lovely, and a beautiful frame around it. But again, it's coming from money. And I had another one, 1912, and it was, again, one of those memorial cards, but it wasn't this large, but it was at least like that. It wasn't this card. And these people hung these things in their parlors and probably over the dining room table. I don't know exactly where, but they mourned and they kept their loved ones in their minds and in their hearts with the memorial things that they had. Yes?
I remember stories from my mother-in-law and grandma, how they would set up with the body in the
Yes.
parlor. Why would they do that? Just a sign of respect, or?
Yeah, they're watching over them until they do get them buried.
Okay.
And then, but you know, in the old days, lots of times, we had the undertakers. They were the furniture makers because they made the coffins and they became the undertakers. And so most people, when they had a deceased person, you know, in the family, they would wash the bodies themselves. They would dress them, and they would hold the funerals in their home, usually in the parlor. And then it got more commercialized, and now people, and again, those were poorer people. They had to do it themselves. And also it was a sign of respect because this is their loved one and they want to do it right and do right by them. So that's part of what's going on. But then now, I'm glad we have mortuaries and funeral parlors because I don't want to, it's bad enough when one of my pets dies, you know. That's hard enough. But I wouldn't want to,
Sit up with the body all night long.
Yes.
I couldn't do that, I don't think.
I know. Yeah, so that's the way it is. We've evolved, and I'm glad we have evolved. And even people who are dirt poor now, they can get GoFundMe accounts. They can do things and they can still get their loved ones buried. A lot of people, though, they don't raise the money because, well, they don't have it, they don't know how to get it. And those poor people, they end up cremated and in a community grave at the Travers Potter's Field. And I know I attended a burial there, I've done two, and it just broke my heart. You know, that there were little boxes. They looked about like toothpaste boxes. Those were the remains of babies. And yet they're being put in a mass grave, and they don't have a funeral. And they won't even, if you go through the county, they won't even let you put an obituary in the paper about one of your loved ones that's going into Potter's Field. It's strictly, you can't have a service. Because if you can have a service, then you don't need the county to pay to have your loved one buried.
They won't allow you to announce it.
No. And we've got some Jane and John Does in there, and all people of all walks of life. But they've started now that they will do a service out there. I don't know how often they do it. I guess I do know. They save up all the cremains at one place. It stays at the Kingsburg Cemetery. That's where most of them are kept. Okay, when they finally get enough to fill that cement crypt thing, a vault is what I want to say, then they go out and put them in the vault. Then they will have a service the next day or so, and the public is welcome to come. But prior to that, they weren't doing that at all, but they are doing it now.
We went to one, and the priest from the St. Mary's Armenian Church
Yes.
came.
Yes. Yeah. And I know they were getting ready to have a service, this was years ago, I can't even tell you when, But I thought, no, it was gonna be public and everything, and I thought, this cemetery is so depressing. I go, I gotta do something. And so I told the guys, leave the gate open, I'll be back. And you'll love this little story. I used to dumpster dive at the Smith Mountain Cemetery. I knew when they put the dumpster out with all the flowers they'd picked up, all the soap flowers, and I'd go rescue them on Thursday night. So I had bags of soap flowers. And so I went home and got my soap flowers, and I went there and decorated every grave and spruced things up. It looks so much better. And I know the 24 photographer for the news, he zeroed in on some of those flowers, and there was actually a bee that came to him thinking they were real. So, yeah, but I haven't been up there now in years. Well, I don't live close to there anymore. I was living in Munson, which is near Dinuba, and now I live in Lindsay, so it's a little bit out of the way now. So I don't get to dumpster dive either. Any other questions? Okay, and you're welcome, like I said, to come up and look at anything you want. You can get a closer look at the jewelry I'm wearing. So, thank you very much for letting me
Thank you, Dolly.
share some.
The hat, everything there.
If you insist.
Well, that's gonna be the one I'm looking at, trying to figure out.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
You'll never get that.
It's having a hard enough time as it is.
Anyways, that's gonna be the one, because no one, even my grandma, was alive.
This is not my day.
I started out
And I got
there,
three
I knew
of
nothing
you,
about.
10 years behind.
I'm
got a lot of work to do.
sure I am, 20 years.
Looks sad.
No, I didn't mean the difference between ours, you're 10 years behind when we started.
Oh, well, I just meant in general, I know I'm under a fucking of stuff.
Let's try to wonder what, see if we can at least get you with your eyes open.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
sorry.
I'm coming down.
I'm coming down.
I tried a long time ago to get my grandfather military information. And he won't let me sign up. It burned down.
There we have it. All right.
Yeah.
About that one.
Get one now.
And so my grandfather was coming out, and I have
Before you were sitting down in that chair, I didn't get it.
from
We go places, we go see things, what do? We spend days sitting inside the library.
We get a couple of minutes. That's so cute.
Yeah, we've been back east. We were in Virginia, we're in Richmond. What do? We spent 3 days in Richmond. We never made it over to the coast to see anything because we were so busy staying.
looking for a number or name or something.
Family, I went to a family reunion from people that I'd never seen or heard of.
Yeah, that's kind of what I can do. You know, I have or my father has, and she lives in Rochester. And I'm thinking of sending my son to Rochester, because he lived in Syracuse for 4.5 years. I'm like, I'm gonna send him up there and have him go introduce himself. And she said he was sending me from well, I've heard on top of this about the same thing.
I can just get this in her, I'm gonna just get her purse.
And my grandmother's Ohio State diploma. So I've been very lucky.
She was looking forward to seeing you.
They're all a bunch of murders. The word she used. When we find out, my uncle was in prison in Kansas for a while, but seeing charges back in the 30s.
Yeah.
Okay?
something
I'm just
you don't
sure.
really think a lot about, but it makes sense.
First of all, my grandmother died in 39 in Oklahoma.
And some people
My
are.
mom